Hello and welcome to DDOCast episode 603. I'm your host, Patrick. We're recording this live on Sunday, June 21st. With me this week, we have a new guest, Perisher.
Hi, it's Perisher from Khyber.
Welcome. We'll get to know Perisher a little bit more in a moment. This week's screenshot. Kata Leaf and some companions pause to appreciate the sunset on the high road in Cormyr in the 468th screenshot of the week. Thanks, Kata Leaf, for sending in this week's screenshot. Very beautiful shot. I have to confess that I spent a good moment thinking that Lantern Archon was a second sun and trying to figure out where I had missed the fact that there were two suns in whatever world we're in. But it is in fact a Lantern Archon there. Very beautiful shot nonetheless. We like to talk about Dungeons and Dragons online nearly every weekend. You can catch us through Twitch, YouTube, the DDO forums, iTunes, and from our website at DDOCast.com. DDOCast is hosted by Cyber Ears, the awesome podcast hosting network, and shows are usually available within a few days of recording. The next show will probably be next weekend, and you can stay updated by following us on our social media pages or our website, DDOcast.com, where we also have a calendar. On the podcast this week, we're going to take a few moments to kind of talk about the game from the perspective of new and or returning players, because with the kind of the fallout from COVID-19, and then having this initiative by SSG to have all of the content for available for everybody for what will end up being, I believe, 5 months total. It'll be through August 31st, assuming they don't extend it again. That there's been a lot of new and returning players that have been coming back to the game and kind of getting back into it. We've seen a lot of that. So we're going to kind of look at the game from that perspective, which is obviously not mine. But Perisher, why don't you give us kind of an idea of what your perspective is?
So I left the game 7 years ago, sort of a lag refugee. And my husband did not. He's been loyally playing. He's a triple completionist. And all those guys out there that wishes their girlfriends or wives would play probably envy Bill, but he didn't have me there. And so he bought me a new gaming computer for December and said, it's really good, the lag is better, the content is great, come on back, and persuaded me to, and I'm really happy he did.
Welcome back. Uh, we'll jump in with game news, and I need to start with a bit of an apology because there was a piece of game news that I missed. It's not that I didn't see it; it's just that I saw it and then in a place where I didn't incorporate it into my show notes and kind of blew it and just didn't incorporate it in there. It's a little bit more awkward because it's a very how do I put it, important part of what's going on in society right now as well. And SSG put in out a statement on June 1st. I know that was 20 days ago. And again, I apologize. I just didn't incorporate it into the show for no other reason than I didn't. And their statement is that, like many around the world, the heartbreaking death of George Floyd, along with other recent events, has left us saddened and searching for answers. We have always believed in the powers of inclusivity and community. In making games, we can all play together. And when members of our community hurt, we all hurt together. We can and must speak out against racism and injustice and support our black community. The global fight for equality affects us all. That was a statement that SSG put out on, like I said, on June 1st. It was met with a little bit of critique about it being somewhat bland, and there were some questions about what kind of actions SSG would take, specifically related to in their games and the content they're producing. But there were a couple questions kind of around how is that going to change their office culture, for example, or how they interact with the community. As far as I know, SSG didn't respond concretely to any of those. They may have done so privately, but I didn't see anything that was a response to any of that. But I wanted to make sure that I put that out there because it is news relating to DDO through SSG. I also wanted to take a moment to put out a personal statement for me. And just to say that I believe strongly that a person's value and dignity is not derived from the color of their skin. To join others in saying Black Lives Matter is, for me, a recognition that we have not created society or behaved as though this were true. To answer the question that will probably inevitably come is, why am I saying this now? Why not earlier? As a white guy with very few relationships with African Americans, I believe I should be doing a lot more listening than speaking on the matter. Having said that, I could have and should have said something sooner, and for that I apologize. Having gone there, let's get into the more fun stuff. Hardcore Season 3, Saving Grace, is going to be the title for that. This is coming June 24th through September 22nd. So that's the timeline for that. It's going to be very similar to Hardcore Seasons 1 and 2 with a few notable differences. So we've kind of touched on before. The goals this time around for 1750 favor will be an Archon Helm. 5000 favor will be a Celestial Mount, which is the same, just different skins as it was for Hardcore Season 2. For 10 Reaper enhancement points, you'll get the Deathwalker's Cloak 3, and 20 Reaper enhancement points will be Lantern Archonling War Veteran Certificate. So again, same prizes, different skins. And then there will also be a Deathwalker Sash 3 for anyone who can reach level 20. And the top 100 winners of the 2 ladders will be immortalized in the Hall of Heroes. I actually took a moment to touch base with Cordovan on that specifically because they still haven't immortalized Season 1 leaderboard, and there's a question of whether or not that was going to happen for 1 or 2 briefly. To summarize what he told me is essentially that he will that is still planned to happen. It hasn't been done yet, so I guess they're going to continue doing that. But we still haven't seen that for Season 1, so we'll see what it takes there. Let's see. For the 3rd season of the Hardcore League, they're making a change that will allow characters to earn a 2nd and 3rd resurrection if they die. A character earns 1 extra life at level 8 and a 2nd extra life at level 16. If a character reincarnates, the total number of extra lives is reset back to 0 and must be earned again. So, bad news, if you reincarnate and die at level 6, you're dead. The good news is if you reach level 16, die twice, and reincarnate, and get back to 16, it sounds like you'll have 2 new lives to play with. So, give and take. Additionally, for the first time, all players can access the Hardcore League server regardless of their account type. Standard account restrictions apply based on whether you are VIP or Season Pass holder. Note that all content is currently available through August 31st, and a free coupon is available to unlock existing adventure packs. So what that's referring to specifically for this season is going to be if you're not VIP, you can't just open any quest on Elite the first time, or Reaper for the first time. So you might have to make some friends. VIPs will still definitely have an advantage, but they are opening up the Hardcore League for all players. And then the same transfer things will apply at the end. So there you go. Perisher, are you going to play on Hardcore? Have you played on Hardcore?
No, I've been drinking through a fire hose with the new content, and I've actually been grateful for hardcore. It sounds like fun, but it also slightly slows down the server so I can run to try to catch up with y'all. So that's its current function in my game world.
I have not taken a break, and I have a very similar relationship with hardcore. Like, I really enjoyed Season 1. Season 2 felt more like a chore. and less pure fun in taking away the time that I'm trying to spend on my own characters, catching up to other people who are more aggressive in their timeline about achieving certain goals. Uh, so I will probably not be on season 3 much, if at all. For those reasons, I would like to. I've heard this from a lot of people too. That it's too soon. It's even less time than we had from between season 1 and 2. Season 3 ended in middle of May, so we're really looking at about 5 weeks between these two seasons.
Yeah. And I should add, Patrick, I really appreciated the red footprints when I returned to the game. So I'm not discouraging all those people from going out and getting them.
Well, you can't. That's not a reward option. That was only a season 1 option. Uh, and don't the footprints are fun. The main reason I was on season 2 in the first place was to get a mount for all of my characters. I did not buy the Borderlands pack that had the mount for all your characters. So
Huh,
getting it this way was essentially a quote free way, and it was fun enough. I really did like
I
the
see.
Deathwalker 2 cloak a lot better than the first cloak, so I ended up getting that as well. But uh, this is probably too soon for me to really have much of an interest, and I would kind of rather work on my main characters. So depending on how that's going, I might dabble a little bit in hardcore season 3, but I do not intend on taking a very serious stab at it by any stretch of the imagination. Uh, but there are. I would think that hardcore season 3 is going to have a pretty good population, just from the standpoint that free and premium players have not been able to do hardcore at all. So there is now an opportunity for them to do so. Uh, Stay safe, have fun, be prepared to die because you will. um, I don't think that the extra life is gonna it's gonna help a lot of people, but it's still gonna be a very deadly thing. People die on hardcore, and that's not gonna
It, it,
change.
it makes it a little friendlier for the non-VIP and newer players to put that feature in. So that's nice.
Yeah, we'll
Not that much friendlier.
it'll be interesting to see how like you could if you're paying attention to the first two seasons the leaderboards, it'll be interesting to see how we can kind of compare the leaderboards to for season 1 and 2 and then season 3, because there was season 1 to 2 a lot more people reached certain goals. um I think season 1 the favor leaderboard didn't become all 5,000 favor people until pretty late, like the last week or so. Whereas this time around, I think the entire favor leaderboard was like, to be on the favor leaderboard, you had to have 5,000 favor by about a month and a half into the season. So people definitely got better or were more prepared or some combination thereof. So we'll see what happens. I am also slightly interested to see season 2 had a new set of champions. I'm kind of expecting season 3 to have a new set of champions. Uh, I'm still holding out that those new champions will somehow find their way into the live servers, because I thought it was really interesting to have new champions.
Yeah.
Um, though I'm still not necessarily a fan of a champion that not only turns you to gold but also gives you a damage dot at the same time is very very kind for a hardcore
It's a
season.
common theme of your shows.
It was was unexpected. Oh, I'm gold. Hey, that champion also does a dot. This is my new most deadly champion for hardcore. Right away. But yeah, if you're gonna go play on hardcore season 3, have fun, enjoy yourself, and good luck. We also got some news. Update 47 will preview on Lemania next week. It's expected to open in the afternoon of Tuesday, June 23rd, and it's expected to remain open until late afternoon, Thursday, June 25th. Obviously, there are some caveats there that maybe something happens and they're not able to release that. I have heard that, uh, assuming everything goes well, that this will get update 47 in 2 or 3 weeks after that. Um, I would not expect them to necessarily have a second preview, just because I think that a second preview tends to, at this point, be related to either a really large amount of content that they want to get, they need to get all the content previewed, and they've got some ready earlier than others. But I think it generally has to do more with mechanics changes and things that they want to get more testing on that fundamentally change the game. Adding new content doesn't tend to change the game in very Halo effect ways, whereas adding a new class and new features and stuff like that can have a lot of impact that they want to kind of dial in. This preview is expected to contain the following features: Legendary Lord of Blades, Legendary Master Artificer, Legendary Vision of Destruction, a new standalone dungeon. That dungeon is going to be free. It is not going to be part of an adventure pack. There'll be new named loot with that stuff, and also miscellaneous smaller changes and bug fixes. I would not expect those changes to be very robust. They have already said that they don't want to make major uh, changes to characters and balance and stuff like that during a hardcore season, because they want that hardcore season to be consistent with that in mind. Um, which
Well, if
also,
I if
go ahead.
if I may, yeah, this cannot come soon enough. I am so looking forward to Legendary Lord of Blades. I know some of you have already had the opportunity to dabble in it,
It was fun.
and I actually that was my takeaway from the YouTube video, which I watched with envy because I just want to be in there with the group.
Yeah.
And I love that raid. I on my tunes when I returned, they had completions of one had 140, one had 200 completions in Lord of Blades, which means I hadn't been TRing enough before I left the game. But
Well, we were
we
we were
know
in the
that.
same guild, and we spent at the time, and we spent a lot of
Yeah,
time in those
we
raids.
loved it. But PJ, just the the joy you guys had doing it. It's just a wonderfully designed quest. It tests in a lot of ways and it engages, and there's nothing wrong with that raid.
Well, currently it doesn't drop any loot, so I'd say that should be
Okay.
fixed. But the
Yeah.
no, the fun factor was definitely there. I am not expecting. I'm kind of expecting Lord of Blades to be pretty much like it was when we snuck in there. They did say it was in an unfinished state. It would not shock me if that unfinished state was merely they haven't put the loot in yet. Um, Other than that, it seemed to be really solid, well balanced, and stuff. I know they said Cordovan mentioned that they need to do a little more work on Vision of Destruction. It's hitting too hard from their internal playtesting. So, um, if I were to hazard a guess, I would say that might mean that the fire bats at the end are a little little beefy, doing a little too much damage. I don't expect any of these three raids to fundamentally be different than their heroic and epic versions. I'm not expecting a Fall of Truth scenario where it's the or Market Death, where the epic version is a completely different raid that borrows some of the same features. I'm expecting these to be pretty similar to um, kind of like Legendary Tempest Spine or Hound of Zoriat kind of a thing.
Mhm.
Um, I have heard that they're not. Uh, they haven't said yet whether or not you'll need to flag for Lord of Blades or Master Artificer. My suspicion is those will be. So Legendary Horde of Hound of Zoriat is a separate quest giver. Uh, I would expect it to be the same as that, because I don't think that they have the infrastructure from a coding perspective to have a, a heroic, epic, and legendary portal all at the same time. So I think they'll need to create a new portal. So they'll have an NPC that will probably just port you straight into the quest, into the raid.
Interesting.
That's my guess. Whether I also kind of feel like, based on the conversation I had with him for Ask the Devs, we talked a little bit about flagging and stuff. I would suspect that Lord of Blades or Master Artificer probably will not require running the level 19 heroic quests to flag. It just kind of seems silly to me to require you to run level 19 quests to flag for a legendary raid.
Isn't one of the questions also for legendary VOD? Are they going to make it like the Hound where you can drop in? Or am I going to have to use my clerking mother hen skills to bring the people to the quest?
My hope for all three of them is that they'll just port you straight in. That's my hope. It's a lot of running to get to any of those three. And while from a world building perspective, it is kind of fun to have that experience. The first couple of times, after that, it becomes a little slog. Also, they do use that in terms of, to kind of sort of artificially lengthen the time it takes you to run that raid. Based on our experience with Lord of Blades and how many hit points he had when we snuck in on Legendary, I don't think the time is going to be a major factor here. It's still going to take a little bit of time to beat him down. Also, I think they've become less concerned with that in a lot of... I mean, Too Hot to Handle is a fast raid, one way or another. It's not a long raid. So, I don't know. We'll see. Those are kind of my guesses. I am looking forward to those. I do think it would be funny if we had to revisit reflag for Vision of Destruction, just because those of you who were around when Vision of Destruction and Hound of Zoriat landed, the flagging was a server-wide based flag that was achieved by running the other raids. I do think it would be kind of amusing if, to flag for Vision of Destruction, the entire server had to run certain raids to get bits to turn in to unlock. I thought that was a lot of fun. And I'm pretty confident Kyra could kick everyone else's, all the other servers' butts in that regard.
Amen.
I think it'd be fun to bring that back, just because I thought it was a really fun server-wide experience. And I'd like to see some more server-wide kind of things like that. It was fun. That's it. I seem to recall Galanda cheating with like using backhoes or something back in the day, but I was gonna say kind of that we kind of went in a different direction briefly. Hardcore season 3 is ending in September, September 22nd. I would not expect the expansion to come before that. I think I said this already on the show, definitely on Players News when I was on there last week. Again, because of their desire to not push balance changes and major class changes through during a hardcore season, from our Ask the Devs episode, we know that they are looking at doing some balance work specifically related to how the game is going to progress into going past level 30, and that they want to do some more work on bows, for example. But all of that is currently kind of tied into that level cap increase, which will come with the expansion. So I would consider it extraordinarily unlikely that they will come out with the expansion during Hardcore Season 3. The astute among you will note that I also said that I was pretty sure that Hardcore Season 3 wasn't going to come until August. So my prognostication is not currently very great at the moment. We'll see what happens. Let's see. There was a bug. I think we talked about this last week. Chest ransacking is currently not working correctly. There is an issue with it. It's not counting correctly or resetting. People are getting ransack messages on chests and getting ransacked on chests that they shouldn't be.
In Legendary Shroud on Reaper, so it's really annoying.
Yeah. That would mean that you're not getting threads and codex runes, I would imagine.
And ingredients.
Yeah, very not good. They did. Cordovan let us know that a couple folks spend most of the day today looking at this. I think this was Thursday or Friday. And we've identified the issue and are working on a fix. This should be corrected in a patch next week. So probably Wednesday or Thursday. They generally try, well, what is let's see, June 24th is Wednesday. So I would expect that there's going to need to be downtime for at least the hardcore server. Presumably they're going to try to hit that patch at the same time frame as their weekly restart kind of a thing. So let's see, the bonus days, double bonus days brings you double mysterious remnants through today, June 30 or June 21st. The sales for the week. Don't forget that the Menace to Underdark and Shadowfell Conspiracy expansions are on sale for 99 points through August 31st. If you don't have them, why have you not bought them yet? They're 99 points. Get on it. That's what? Get 25 favor for or 25 points for 100 favor. So 800 favor will get you both expansions. Uh, get Menace to the Underdark first, and then go run Shadow, and then go run that, and you'll have enough favor to or points to buy Shadowfell Conspiracy. There you go, done. Let's see. The sales are improve your character. You get 30% off of select stat and skill tomes, tomes of heroic and epic learning, and the Harper Agent enhancement tree. Now through June 25th. Again, I will point out that can we get a universal enhancement tree other than Harper Agent on sale with one of these sales? Maybe. It's always the Harper Agent enhancement tree. The coupon code is Lasting Heroism Potion times 5. The coupon code is I am a hero. I am a hero. Not their most creative, but a pretty darn good code, if I must say so. All right, we're going to community news. The 387th Chronicle. UI skinning is back. You can check out the UI forums for more information and see what is out there. There are a few out there. Have you played with any of the UI skinning yet?
Nope.
I played around with it a little bit with some mixed results. See, I might use some of them on. Actually, I was going to use one on DDOCast last week and forgot until I turned off the show. I was like, oh yeah, I was gonna put a UI skin on because I can. Yeah, forgot. See, popular YouTuber JoeCat recently critiqued our user interface, so you can see what he did and did not like. The comment: how much gold do you need in DDO to be considered rich?
Well,
It's a good question.
yeah, as a returning player, I'm constantly switching out my epic destinies and what I'm using and which energy shield. I'm spending a lot of plat. So I think how rich you are is also a function of your spend rate.
Generally, yes.
So I know I have a lot of friends that are plat capped, but I find ways to spend it. So
Yeah, resetting trees and stuff would be a pretty easy way to spend it. Also, the Reaper wings, I believe the lowest you can get them down to is 1,000,000 plat.
okay,
So
yeah, I'm chasing Reaper wings and having come up as a starving poor clerk without much money. Although I could afford them, when I get to 75, I've told people, "I'm not paying that money for it. I remember being poor." And they say, "Just you wait, you will." So we'll see. We'll see if I buy them.
maybe
I
not
say I
like
won't.
every lot, do a bunch of lives first and then buy them once. But
Yeah. I
yeah,
have a friend who just who buys the wings and stacks them. He said that you can stack them in your bank account. He has a stack of them. They actually stack, FYI.
sure. I mean, if you got the plat, I mean,
Yeah, I'd
what?
rather share it with new players. Honestly,
Sure.
I'm sort of a more of a I probably won't use the wings, but we'll see.
Oh, you'll buy at least one set eventually.
That's what everyone says.
um, yeah, considered rich is kind of a tricky thing, right? Like, I would say you have to plat cap at least once. Once you plat cap once, then you've achieved rich status. Uh, and then you stay rich until you get to a point where you run out of, like, you try to buy something, you don't have enough platinum to do it. That's where I'm going with. Fan site news. we got a shout out for our Ask the Devs discussion from last week. Which was a lot of fun with oh, my brain is blocked. Arcot and Nimvind discussing that. Players News discuss Hardcore Season 3. DDO Stream is your first stop to find DDO on Twitch. This week, Shoemaker follows the noob. DDOPL has an Aladdin, and Baklagor serves Fridays on Ice. Also on Twitch, Cheat Shaman assembles a Cape Gang. Nubicaro takes part in a Reaper 10 riding the storm out, and Lorelil farms some gear. On YouTube, Supru Brits and Bob finds a cloak invisibility. Demon Moonbat sets wards, and Planky runs R10, Grim, and Barrett. I'm pretty sure most of those names are new.
Mm.
New and returning players are also live streaming, so that's fun.
Yep.
Let's see. It pretty much covers the Chronicle. D&D Night on DDO stream continues Sundays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. So we get to check out that on twitch.tv/DDO stream. And DDO Splat is still playing on Wednesdays at 5:30 p.m. Pacific. We'll keep doing that for most Wednesdays for a while, I think. Pretty much covers that. So let's talk about experiences for new and returning players in today's environment for DDO. Because we've talked about this before, but that was several years ago, and things have changed a lot. So kind of go mostly to Perisher here, just because you're the returning player, not me. The reason why we're kind of lumping new and returning players together is there's a lot of similarities. A returning player might have more of an underlying understanding of the game, but I'm sure Perisher will kind of attest to how much of the game also changes if you've been gone for a couple years. So it kind of almost feels like you are new, as it were. Right. So Perisher, where would you like to start?
Oh, we can just start historically with the experience. I mean, I would say overall it was confusing and bewildering, and the new content was glorious, and Ravenloft was delicious. But if you look at historically, the first thing that happens is, again, husband's lucky. He has a girl gamer wife. So I log on, and in December, and my guild's pretty much gone. It's not there. And I had a backup, a family and friends guild, which had some really top line great players that can surge R10 and some very casual players in between. And since I in particular like to play healers, I thought, well, that's great. It's a diversity of people. It's a warm and friendly guild. I moved my tunes over to Homeboys and thought, well, this is, I'll learn what's new and I'll set up my action bars accordingly and I'll be good to go. And, I guess in retrospect, just preparing for the show, I realized exactly how much I was carried by, my new guildies, for the first 4 to 6 weeks. My action bars were useless. They were sometimes a distraction. The wrong spells were put at too high a priority, and the spells had changed. And in particular on a cleric or a favorite soul, that's a big deal. And I found this interesting to the point I would sometimes just be reading the new spell description when someone needed a heal. It's just not always working out well. And my heals weren't always landing. Sometimes I thought it was lag, but I realize now I really just need to completely redo my spell selection and my action keys. It really took me a while playing to understand from my playstyle how to do that. And I had, it's Kyber. I had a lot of feedback. We call it a learning culture. They're not mean. It's just a learning culture. Clerics in particular have to be tough. We get a lot of feedback and advice, sometimes unsolicited, and some of it was useful. So it was great to be welcomed back. And it was going to be more of a challenge than I thought it would be, but that's just the thing. I mean, I I see these great tunes that have accomplished everything, and I'm kind of on the one hand. I don't envy them. I love to watch them play, but I'm kind of glad I'm on the journey. I love learning. I love being bewildered and confused and sorting things out. I've been back now half a year, and there's still stuff I really don't understand. I was having a technical discussion of if you know you're about ready to open the door and you're going to be defensively casting promotion after the door implosion after the door opens, and you're in the back seats. What other one spell would it be? Obscuring mist or symbol of death? I vote symbol of death. Do you cast first? Getting into those kinds of discussions, and then suddenly realizing the answer is a function of what Reaper level you're on. I mean, I, I feel like at one point, I thought I knew the new content, and then I realized it gets played very differently at different Reaper levels. I thought, yeah, yeah, that's true. No, that's really true. So, am I really a returning player, or am I simply a new player? Because here's some new content that gets played at different Reaper levels. How many times do you have to play that to do that well? Even the safe spots can be different depending on the Reaper level. I'm 6 months in, just beginning to discover that, right? So, I say we talked about this a little before the show began. I say I'm a new player too, because it's that different. And it's welcoming. There's enough steps on the ladder that you think you're returning, but it's a different game. But one of the things that makes me very happy is I love the learning. I love trying to sort things out. But one of the reasons I was sort of chased off was lag. It's really no fun as a cleric in particular. And the lags were like 4 seconds. And now, when they happen by instance and situationally, they're 1 and 2. Now, your whole listening base is going to kill me for saying this for desert listening, but the lag is better, and it really is better. And my husband's like a Uber coder, and he explains, the devs aren't lying. It's not just this one thing. It's not this software glitch they haven't found yet. It's everything. And I believe that. But have they worked the problem? They have more content, and it's playable. It's your job to anticipate lag and anticipate generally in the room and watch the whole room. But it's livable for me. So I'm really happy about that, because that would have been a deal breaker for me. So I would say, like, the content is, you really have to envy me this. I got it all at once. I got all of Ravenloft and Shard at the same time. I didn't even know which one to run to. Um,
The answer is yes.
I actually, yeah, I actually have opinion on what to do if you're in that situation and you're returning. And it's what I did, but I think it worked for me. I was like, whoa, there's a lot here, and I love the end game. And I love the Reaper, but let's start with getting at least a base of 12 past lives here, and really learning all the quests 1 to 30, and getting around and pugging and listening to different people, and then focus a little more on the end game content. So I kind of went a little slowly. I wasn't really spending a lot of time in Sharn and Ravenloft for the first week and a month and a half. I was on the cycle to get 12 past lives and refiguring out gear. And to prepare for this, I also asked my guild leader. I said, what do you think is the major hurdle for a returning player? What do you think it is? Because I know what it is for me, but what do you think? Yeah, for me, it was all the spells changing and relearning, doing muscle memory, which is how I used to play on my main, which is a cleric, doing new muscle memory for new action bars. But I think for most people, it's probably gear. But for all of these new and returning hurdles, I think the answer really is a guild that's supportive and there to ask questions 24/7. It really helped to be in a sort of larger guild that does that, you know? And so it goes back to having really a supportive guild to answer endless questions. And I take that into account when new people join too. I sort of corral them, and even if they think they don't need help, I entice them. I bring them to my Friday night loot runs, and then we talk about what they're doing. And the more you ask, the more you realize what you don't know.
True.
So I think it is a people sport. And if I don't know when's a good time to chime in, Patrick, that I like Standing Stone's statement, and the game is about community. And returning for me and seeing some of my old vet friends are still here has been wonderful and is about community. And the game really is a team game. It is all about the love. And I think Standing Stone's statement on Black Lives Matter is all about the love too. So I'm pro love. like good divine cleric. And I love the fact that they set that out. They're absolutely right. That's one of the things they're trying to teach us, that it's easier to do this together and fun and better and correct and right. So yeah, I could tell you uh, a lot of hilarious things I did wrong. I mean, it's sort of interesting what I didn't remember,
Yeah.
and had to relearn. Like you say, there's not a lot you used to know that. Well, there is. It turns out, in addition to muscle memory for the wrong action key, I somehow, if I barely knew a quest, I knew where every shrine was. Right? Really, I just knew. In fact, I'd be in a quest and I would think, I don't think I've done this before. Oh, yes, I have. Down the hall on the next left is the shrine. That's how I would know I'd done it before, right? But now there are these lost souls, and everyone's skipping the shrines, including me. So
Depending on what
why
totem, yeah.
can't I remember the levers for the crucible? That's useful information. I don't even need to know where these shrines anymore, but they were so much more important then. And boy, do I remember those. It's really funny. Like, I remember some puzzles cold. I still can do 5 by 5s on the fly in the shroud. And then there's other puzzles I'm like blanked on and I have to relearn. So this is sort of 7 years is a long time. It's sort of a sketchy historical past on Quest. So even the old content I'm familiar with again now, but there was some more work there than I thought there'd be. But
So
Lost Souls, I mean, boy, I feel like, the old grandmother. Back when I was a cleric, we'd have to collect these things and create these trinkets, you see. And nobody does that anymore. I mean, P.S. I do, because mostly to bring up my Sork. I need mana supplies as my Sork is learning. And she stopped using too much mana, but she used those trinkets. But yeah, the old I can get medium shards at a better rate now.
so it sounds like
So
the first thing that new and returning players are gonna have to overcome is information overload because there's gonna
yeah, and
be a lot.
that that too is a guild, or at least who are your friends. Make some friends if you're new. Have some friends because information overload is also like a counseling function. Like, don't try to stay up all night and learn this. This is going to take you a couple of weeks. This particular point, even. You know, the idiosyncrasies of the enhancement tree and what to do if you're building a rogue. This isn't something I can solve for you in the next hour unless you want to copy my rogue build. To get people to sort of drink more slowly and realize it's a process and enjoy the journey, that's a coaching thing. So, or you will become frustrated and say, "Look, I'm a loser. I can't do what that Uber Rogue does." And you're not going to tomorrow, and it won't matter if you stay up till 2 a.m. I would say the people that understand that best in the new player classes that I've seen come into our friends and family guild are some of the young people. There are more obviously young people than there were 7 years ago, at least in the group I'm intersecting with in new players. And they're young in a very interesting way. They're not young to video gaming. They're young to this game.
Sure.
I have a guildie that came in, oh, I think about 2 months ago, and he was actually really top line in another game, but he felt he'd completed it and he came here. And it was great watching him play because he was flashes of brilliance, and then he would do really crazy, stupid things, and you could see, he was gonna grow fast, but he knew how to learn, and he enjoyed the learning, so he wasn't impatient about the learning,
Right.
so he was a good learner, and I didn't even know how young he was. I just saw that he was willing to take counsel and walk alongside, and I was helping him out, and, then once he couldn't play for only an hour a day, and I asked why, and it turned out he was grounded. He
Mm.
had, not done his homework and done too much DDO. I thought, "Wow, I'm guilding with someone who's grounded." I feel really old, you know? And, so I see more of that, and, they're really good at learning, and they're good at not being overwhelmed by a lot of information. Young people are more tech savvy and all this, and when they come to the game, they're not thrown off balance by how much they have to climb up. Uh, you have to like to be a little lost to return well, and you have to be
Yeah.
patient with yourself.
I think the other thing with just kind of some of what you're talking about is you're going to have a lot of information overload. And there's a lot of systems that you're going to have to kind of relearn, or brand new systems to learn. And I'd say, start, like, focus yourself a little bit, right? Like, don't try to learn every class at once, right? Like, learn a class that you want to play and kind of build off of that. I think it also helps to understand some of the basic mechanics of how the game works, right? Like, feats are work more about getting your feats right than your enhancements right, because enhancements are really easy to reset. Feats are a little harder to reset, particularly when you get into higher levels. Let's say that you can't reset them. It's just feats are a little more difficult to reset in that, and
Yeah.
change in
And
that sense. So
and that may be a difference between returning and new in that
right.
as a returning player, one, I knew that, but two, I had opinions on feats in my playstyle,
Hmm.
even with the new feats. I was I got counsel, but I wasn't always willing to take it. If I were a new player, I'd let someone set up my feats for me the first time. I really would.
It
Just do
helps.
it. And it's your build. It can become your build. You can change it when you TR, but don't suffer needlessly, right?
Yeah, but there's I think it's generally pretty hard to come up with a really terrible build in DDO, unless you're like really going off the wall. If you're staying kind of basics, it's pretty easy to kind of go in the right direction. But you say, like,
If you
don't worry too much about, like, especially when you get back into the game. Reaper can be a lot of fun, and there's a lot of benefits in those trees that you can earn and stuff. But that may not be the best place for you to start trying to improve your characters by just going straight into Reapers and getting Reaper XP and stuff, right? Like,
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
be afraid to start small. Reaper has
Yeah.
10 skull range, so you don't.
Right. When I was halfway through this 12 epic past life journeys, I had an old vet friend of mine pull me aside and say, "Nancy, what are you doing? Keep seeing you going from 20 to 30. There's this thing called Reaper. You know about it, right? Because you're not getting past lives. You're not getting first Reaper bonus." And I said, "That will come, but I really want to know the content when I get there."
Sure.
So I can get higher Reaper first time bonuses. And I want my tune to survive. So you'll take me on more than one high Reaper first time bonus quest. So I have a plan on this. It's sort of the tortoise and the hare. And I'm going to start with building a solid tone and knowing the quests. That hasn't changed. Know the quests. I would say if you are new, people talk about builds too, and they have some complicated builds in the forum. You could just go with something that you can play as a pure class for now and put aside that complexity for now. A favorite soul, a cleric, a rogue, a bard. There's ways to do that. And just put aside that complexity for now if you wanted to and focus on really developing that tune. You can always TR it into a more interesting build later. Which by the way, uh brings me to another thing I'm really jazzed about, which wasn't true before. There were some specialist builds before when I left 7 years ago. But, PJ, you've been here the whole time. Imagine me coming back and seeing the wonderful flowers in the garden. I mean, there are people that have these builds that are just so amazing. They can level in their underwear, and they're really creative and new. And there's just a bunch of them. So there are some treasured build specialists. It's never been my thing. But it's like you don't have to play the violin really well to see someone doing that well. And as a cleric, I like to watch. It's my job to sort of see what's going on in the room. And I am just honored to get to watch some of these people play.
Sure.
I just they're just really well made tunes, and they found little synergies in the epic destiny tree, or some of them have just are just working a build for their playstyle perfectly. So it has been really enjoyable to watch, and I like to see these things at work, these creations, these little pieces of art.
Yeah, people are pretty darn creative about the builds. Um, say, if you're watching that as a new entering player, I would caution you to don't get discouraged about how much more powerful other people are. Um,
Yeah,
because one, you can get there. Uh, you probably never catch up, and that's okay. I've been here the entire time, and there's people that are way ahead of where I'm at, too. So, play the game that you want to play. I would say one, but two, just kind of a tip I would say is the fastest. There's a lot of different kind of variables that go into your character's power, right? the easiest one to catch up on is gear.
Yeah.
Uh, that's the easiest place to really tweak out your character and get it into a higher performance place is getting good gear. Uh, because it doesn't getting good gear takes the same amount of time for everybody in the sense that you just have to find that gear, right? And I'm not necessarily talking about like the mythic and reaper bonuses that are on stuff, but just
Hmm.
the general gear is really gonna, getting a good gear set is gonna really amplify your power much quicker than getting 30 pass lives or something like that.
And one of the things we do, I've actually instituted this program in my guild because I spend a good deal of time on my cleric, so people are always, "Will you help me farm?" So really, just to protect my schedule, but also to build community within the guild, I have a set time where I do loot runs,
Mm-hmm.
and I have people show up who are new to the game. They're like, "I don't know what I need," and it's a great moment. Like they're honest. They're in a safe group of friends in the guild, and I usually have one or two experienced vets in the party, and we'll break it apart and tell them what tell them what they need, and go get it for them. So
Sure.
again you don't have to travel in packs, but it sure helps when it comes to gear to have a supportive community on that.
I mean,
Um,
the whole game is going to be a lot easier if you have a supportive group of friends that you can kind of pool in and amplify that power, right?
yeah, and so this may not sound terribly relevant, but it's a very shallow rabbit hole. Um, Andrew Wiles, when he discovered Fermat's last theorem, he later said it was a little bit bittersweet that it was over because those 7 years of struggle and the abstract darkness to decide, he really enjoyed sort of being lost and trying to understand. And I have training in advanced pure math too. And one of the things I loved about when you didn't know the result on the theorem was that you were sort of in the dark, struggling, trying to figure it out. I found that fun, you know? And so I counsel people, you know, a problem is not always a bad thing. If you feel like overwhelmed, you don't know where to go next, you're starting with your gear, but there's this and there's that too. You can just enjoy the ride. You'll make mistakes. You'll learn more from your mistakes. I hope you don't make many, but enjoy the ride and do not be dispirited that someone who's been doing this for a decade plays the rogue better than you. I don't. I look at those rogues compared to mine and I realize, gee, it's possible to get that good. I'm going to keep trying, you know? And an amazing number of times, as tough a learning culture as Kyber is, if you approach someone humbly and ask, they will spend time and share it with you if they know you're listening. So a lot of the
True.
vets will help you out.
A lot of those quote power gamers, they really like talking about how good their builds are. So like if you
Yeah.
ask them questions about, hey, how do I make my character better? Like, what are you doing that makes your character this good? Right? Like they tend to really like to talk about that kind of stuff. So it's not hard to ask them questions. I would always recommend that before you start peppering them with questions, to say, hey, can I ask you some questions about your
Yeah.
build or how I can make my build better? Or hey, you seem to be
Yeah.
really good at building a caster. I'm struggling building one. Is there some advice or some direction you can point me to? Right? Uh, that always will kind of go really well. Um,
Yeah. And I would say also if you're a mid-level returning player, um, and they see that you're trying and you're earnest and you're getting better, there's also a more charitable reason they'll share with you. Uh, people talk about the separation between the sort of really uber players on a given server and the mid range and the low range. They want the mid range, the middle class to remain there. It's in everybody's interest in the ecology that there not be an exact distribution. So I've even heard some of my vet friends who didn't leave, who are really uber now, the last 7 years, they really own their 30 class, talk about doing their community work, right? Is they really understand they're building up the whole server and we we want to have a robust populous community. So there really are really good players that are, really committed to the game and think about it that way. So they may really be hoping that you ask them as long as you don't stop them and frisk them in the marketplace.
sure.
They may be willing to do that.
So I want to get a little more focused on some of this stuff. Is for new and returning players, how do you find what advice you have on finding players in the community to kind of help you, guild or whatever, to help you along?
Well, it it's one thing to join a guild, it's another thing to really be in the guild. If you're joining a guild, you need, introvert or not, to feel free to send out tells saying, "Hey, I'm running in the 6 to 8 level range. Anyone else running? Do you have something?" Because sometimes they won't say in guild they're running, but they'll say, "Sure." The worst thing they'll say is, "No, we're full." True or not, you know? So, you definitely want to reach out, and Kyber has a pretty good pug scene too, so there are LFMs that go up. When I was going 20 to 30 and 20 to 30, I would do that, and, for high-end stuff, I have a handful of Higher Reaper Discord channels that are sort of good when I'm in the mood to do that. So Discord channels happen, but what I really like and like to hang on to too is the because I you can see I'm a Kyber fan and a Kyber institutionalist. I like the pugs. I don't mind the pugs. And if you say, well, 50% of the time you're on the clerics, are you serious? And the answer is yes. That's where I'm going to get better with someone doing something surprising or me being able to anticipate it so it's not surprising to me. That is good practice for a cleric. So I continue to believe that the pug scene is good for many tunes and for development. So I see a lot of really good players drop in and do pugs and chat with people. It's one of the ways you learn, and they'll talk to you about this or that. And oh, if you're a cleric, by the way, FYI, sometimes you don't have to ask for advice. And half the people who've been here a long while recall once being the best cleric on Kyber, and you should build the cleric just this way and not any other way. And they'll just tell you. And it's never the same way. And that all these people were the best cleric on Kyber during the last 7 years while I was gone, PJ. Again, I was a math major. I don't think that's statistically likely. But you don't always, if you're a cleric, have to ask to get the advice, and then you can take it for what it's worth. I've had some amazing statements on what I should have been doing read to me, and I'm in the middle of this. I'm not in the middle of it. It's apparently the war's been fought and lost in my absence. Favorite souls are superior to clerics. There's no functional difference, no competitive advantage to clerics, and I should give up. I've been told that repeatedly. So, I listen to that, but for me, it's an open question, and I'm still trying to answer it in my own mind. I have an open mind, but I'm working at the problem. But I've been told that a lot, and
I mean, they're
I
all
we
wrong
get
because the best raid healers are actually druids.
okay. I've heard that too. So the deal is, yeah, and it may matter whether it's raid or party, but we get some transplants from other servers, and sometimes they'll drop by my guild on the way to wherever because we're very open to travelers coming and joining us for a bit. And when they do, they talk about clerics in the other servers, and I wonder if there aren't many clerics in Kyber right now. So I can be seen on a Sork and a rogue, and soon a bard. I haven't given up on the cleric question, and I feel that in the last 7 years, some of you all have. So that remains to be solved in my mind. But things that are constant from the past for me as a new player, as a returning player, also I feel new, as you say, and would perhaps be a little troubling to a new player is the Zerging, even in mid or high level Reaper. Um, Which with really good players works, with not perfect players can just cost more time. Um, I That has remained the same. So it remains axiomatic for me when I go into my healer to never play with lethargy. You just can't. It's not a good idea. It won't work. And the fact is, people won't let it happen. So what I have to do there is I've gotten falconry spin boost for my cleric. Right? That's cost me like 6 or 7 action points, but I really need it. I need it to run away, I need it to run too. That's what's happening. And I don't know if that's service specific or not, but if I were a new player, I would especially if I were donning heavy armor, I'd really like, "Where are you guys?" as they disappear on the horizon, And I think in terms of community building, the more experienced veteran players have to go find those people, bring them back, and stay with them a little more, because we want to build the community. And so
Sure.
there's still some zerging going on. I'm not anti-zerging. I'm just saying, if you got a new person, I have sort of a maternal heart for that, and bringing them along. And I've seen a lot of veteran players doing that too. So good for you guys.
So what are some of the bigger changes to the game since you've been back that kind of took you the longest to learn or adjust to that you could speak to for new and returning players?
Well, you asked me this at the 6-month mark, and I always think I'm nearly done in adjusting, and then I'm not. So probably better to ask me that in a year, right? But as of now, right, I have more humbleness about what I don't know. As of now, I'm really focusing on different approaches to game for different Reaper levels. I mean, I learned pretty soon, in 3 months, that the difference between 7 and 10 was much bigger than 1 to 7. I learned to know my Reapers, what little I could do, sound burst with some, de-leveling, crowd control, basically stay back and heal. When I'm on the cleric, I can do more on my rogue. Learning my Reapers, but I don't feel I feel that it's really nice because for me, the content doesn't get stale very quickly. The content gets played differently based on different Reaper levels. So I would say I'm at the point at the 6-month mark that I no longer think I know the quests. And I thought I did it 3 months, and I meet new people who insist, "No, this is the safe spot," and then I'll run with another group because I pug a lot. They're like, "No, this is the safe spot," and then I have to debate it and just make, my own judgment on maybe at different Reaper levels, it's different. That's a way of learning content, looking at it sort of, prismatically from different angles. I'm enjoying. Um, I would say that you know, I really feel like it's fun to learn new content, and this content is still new to me. Um, and I'm still learning things. And some of the people I run with will say, "You didn't know that?" I mean, I learned a lot at once, so sometimes I have to hear it twice. So again, I tell you, I'm also new. This is a different game, but I slowly crept up on me that I was playing a different game. So that's good. I might have been scared if I knew it right away, but I would say different quests are played differently at different Reaper levels. Dealing with different Reapers differently, seeing how people deal with Reapers. I'm a student in class on that. I love the Reapers. I love learning about them, but I don't think I'm there yet on that.
So, as a new or returning player, how should you interact with other parties? By which really kind of want to get down to is, uh, should you, uh, what should you tell the groups you're joining that don't know you, especially pugs, right? Um, are you new to
Oh, I'm gonna
returning, or
out.
what kind of
Yeah,
kind of
I'm gonna out myself on this. I honestly think it's true when I say it, but a lot of people are saying, "Come on, Nancy." I'll join a group and I'll say, "Hey, I'm pretty new," especially if it's a group I haven't played with before and they're doing R10. And um, once I really didn't know something and it caused a mistake and nearly a party wipe, and I'm like, "Hey, I'm still new at this. I'm returning." And one of them said to me, in the moment, a little piqued, "You can only use that excuse for so long." Which raised the very interesting question for me, PJ, of how long? Because I would like that to be as long as possible because I really feel it's true. So, and I understand that some of these young super gamers that are trying out the game may be learning at a faster rate than me, maybe a shorter time period for them. But I have a really serious day job. I play when I can. And I put as much time as I can, but I am err on the side of disclosure, even for quests I may have run several times and very successfully. Because one, they'll tell me more information than I know or I don't know, and two, I really feel it's true. And I think a lot of people I play with feel it's true of me. So there you go. So it's always good etiquette. And when new people come to the guild and I see them joining a pug. I'll say, "Tell them you're new. Tell them this, okay? Because otherwise they'll think you're lazy or a troll. You don't need this kind of trouble." So I'm for saying that often, although I have recently gotten pushback on that. As I come closer to my wings, they're like, "Nancy, stop. You just made a mistake." And my answer to that is I feel I have to learn from every mistake, If someone dies, I want to know why. If I die, I want to know why. I don't want it to happen again. And so I one of the differences between now and 7 years ago, which, believe it or not, I find frustrating, is you may or may not I'm sure you do, recall this. If someone died in a group of really good players where people shouldn't die, what happened? A council was convened. Extensive guild discussions occurred. The cleric was to blame or not. Usually, the cleric waited quietly to see if some white knight would explain, actually, the melee shouldn't have pulled that. But usually, we have good supervision. Like, we're supposed to be standing back and knowing whether it's our fault or not. But usually, I'd bite my tongue and wait while the Inquisition occurred. And I'd always learn something from the Inquisition. Sometimes I'd think it wasn't my fault, but it was. But there was a discussion. Everyone lost XP, and it was polite within guild, but not always in pugs. I come back and there's Reaper and people die, and I'm pretty new. I'm coming back. I want to know why. Oh, they're like, "Ah, it's Reaper." I'm like, "No, no, wait. This is too short. I need more information. I don't have your combat lex." "No,
Reaper
no,
is
no,
trying
you
to
don't
kill you,
understand."
so you know.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. This happens on R10. It happens repeatedly. You need to get over it. I'm like, "Look, I'm over it. We're all up and running again." But why did that happen? No, it just happens. So, and then I run with other groups and it happens less. I'm not getting as much feedback from the melee on the deaths. I tell you, PJ, everyone who's a melee on Kyber, put your fingers in your ear. I would like to know more why they died so that I can learn more, so I'll know how to avoid it, because this is kind of my job. So the casual attitude towards death is alarming. Clerics and Kyber, you have to brace yourself and be tough. And by the way, I'm not just talking about clerics. For every class, that's true in everywhere, probably in every server. But the casual attitude towards death is really new, and in some ways interferes with the learning culture. I would like people to tell me less that they have the greatest cleric and here's exactly how I should play it. I would like to tell them more about their death and what I should have done to prevent it if possible. I would like to have that piece of advice coming in more often than it does. And who knew I'd be saying that and returning to the game, because you've played this class. You get a lot of feedback on and in the old days on these issues when people lost a little bit of XP. So, that is just continues to blow my mind. And something else, which I find really sad, is, I don't find it sad at all that Kyber's slightly politer than it used to be. I think that's definitely true. But, people will thank me for healing them. And people I run with regularly, I say, like, "No, don't thank me. I don't thank you for swinging your great axe. You don't need to thank me for healing." And they're like, "No, you don't understand. It's just not hasn't been happening here." And I find that kind of sad. So, on the one hand, people say they've solved the favorite soul versus cleric question. Some people think they have. But on the other hand, people don't see many clerics healing. So that's why I think it remains an open question. And I don't know how it works if you stay mostly in your guild or you don't see, but in the pug culture, people are shocked or amazed if they get a timely rest. And again, it makes me kind of sad because, that shouldn't. So there's
Well, I'd say then
something
that you
happening
probably
there.
don't get to keep saying that you're new or just got back to the game then.
Yeah, yeah. Again, that's a really interesting thing how long you can move that along. But I really feel that knowing the content well, the way I used to like know things like Lord of Blades, is a very high standard. I take that seriously. I still think this has not changed in the game. That knowing the content well is one of the most important things to playing well. And what am I supposed to be doing? Being very reactive and anticipating. If I don't know the content, how can I be anticipating or or understanding how others know the content? So
Yeah.
I feel that I'm new. I really do, and I'm not sure I felt that way at 3 months, and I do at 6, which is a wonderful advertisement for DDO because it says that the material has complexity and layers, and you're still learning, and you can still look at things from different angles. And, there's things I don't wanna look at from different angles. I guess I don't ever wanna understand how invitation for dinner works. Just take me where I have to go next. But generally, I wanna learn the content. Um, so
I
but,
think a
it's
big part
I've
of
had
that. is going to be
Yeah,
at
go ahead.
is to kind of focus up a little bit. A big part of that is how much should you disclose to groups, right? Like if you tell people that you're new, and it can be content specific too, right? Like you know, I don't know this quest very well,
Yeah,
or I
yeah,
haven't run this quest before. Uh, they that will at the very least generally get people to recognize, oh, I need to tell you not to do something or do this, right? Or like give some basic instructions, uh, which can key you in too to ask questions like, well, why do I need to do that? What's wrong with doing that? Or why don't we go that way? Like you can ask those questions. Maybe not during the party or something, and ask. If, I'm always prone of ask before you start asking a bunch of questions. Ask them if you can ask them questions about how to do this quest or something like that, or can you teach me this quest or that kind of thing. Um, but
and,
I'm
there's new people who, I didn't know from before,
mhm,
um, who have become, my cohorts and equals and friends who I was behind when I first started, who were happy to teach me, invest me, and they
mhm.
found in me a loyal friend. And now it's not like, "Oh, yeah, you can come heal." It's like, "Could you come?" And because they invested. And my point is experienced players know that too. They've seen that. What they really need is a player that is, teachable, right? So you're not gonna learn the lesson if you don't announce yourself as a student in their class. They may not help you or they may. Um, one of the best teaching advice can be very brief too. One of the best sorks that ever existed in the game, I still insist, was Ania. And I once made a mistake on a run. Believe you were there, more than 7 years ago. And he said something that really impressed upon me. He said, I made a mistake. And I said, oh, but I'm going to TR and fix that. And he just typed in guild chat, Nancy, you can't TR the player.
It's true.
And so you can't. And so one of the hardest mistakes to fix and ways to be improved isn't like you need this piece of gear. It's that you need someone more senior to say, no, that was you. And then you have to do this thing that people that want to have pride in their play have to learn to do, which is have more justified pride and adjust, you know? And that's the kind of learning that's the deepest kind. And you need someone to, I don't really even care if they're nice or mean about it. You need someone to tell you. And that's why I don't like the fact that we don't commission boards of inquiries on deaths anymore.
Well, there's sometimes the end result of that is why did you die? My meld ran out. I didn't kill it fast enough, and that's on R10. Sometimes
Yeah,
it's that simple.
that's it. Yeah.
um, do you have
I don't
anything?
always ask. I ask about the mysterious deaths, the ones I didn't anticipate.
Anything else you want to give for? We've kind of rambled around a little bit, but do you have anything specific you want to give for new and returning players getting back in the game and kind
Oh,
of some
for,
specific strategies?
forgive, forgive yourself. Have a sense of humor. I, at one point, did a top 10 list of stupid things I've done since I came back to the game and posted it in Discord in my guild channel. And I did it to remind myself and everyone else. I still think I'm new. Look at what I've done. And some of them are pretty hilarious. And I'm sort of relieved they were met with patience. I joined a grim disturbance in King's Forest and rushed over and was really proud of my divine wrath ability to really knock on red names now and wanted to test it. And I went over there to the portal and they were leaving the red name alive. And I'm like, well, I can help here.
Whoops.
If it were possible to wrestle someone to the ground in game, these five gentlemen did very nicely and then expertly kited it away and rubber banded it to full tub. Well, telling me with surprising politeness why this was not a good idea. So, you know, and the next time I saw this band, if I may, post for such a disturbance, they specifically said in the LFM, "Do not kill the red name." So
Not
it
alone in this
seems like,
experience.
yeah, I know, but it seems that a lot of your learning will be by mistake when you return or when you're new. And if you can laugh, and if you can find people that will laugh with you, it's going to be a lot bearable. Um, you know, I when you're if you're returning, everything feels a little weird, or you don't know if your tune is operating um, appropriately. I did a what goes up, and everything seemed really slippery, even with my foam. And I wasn't moving right. I thought, well, it's heavy armor, it must be lag, but it was way behind the group. And then I finally realized I had forgotten to take off my ice skates. Yeah, and now that I've been back longer, I would know, wait, there's something wrong with my tune. Let me recheck my gear. This isn't working right. But everything was strange then. So I did that. I just have a lot of sort of funny stories. At one point, I was obviously collecting wisdom points in my main, and I was over 100 pretty soon after I came back. And someone who's a cleric in the guild said, "Wait, how is that possible? You're just back." You know, in the stat screen, PJ, where they have the wisdom number and then they have the plus modifier. I had
Yep.
loyally added the two together and gotten well over 100. So this person went from, "Hey, no, I need to talk to you. Let's party. I need to see what you're doing." And then when he saw what I was doing, he's like, "We don't need to talk anymore." Just left party. And continues to refer to that episode as Nancy math, but with good humor. So, you have to be patient. You can't do it overnight. That's the fun part. That's the journey. I don't feel sorry for them if they're still happy playing, but the people that have already arrived, I that's not for me. I like the journey. So if you approach it that way, you won't burn out. You'll laugh at yourself when you do Nancy math. Um, my natural class friends remain my friends. I pair really well with Sorks. I'm scared of rogues. Some things haven't changed, but a lot has for me and my cleric. And my Sork, yeah, it's great for leveling to do a tiefling Sork. It's been tried before. I didn't discover the build, but it's so much fun. But the harder things are the more fun things and the more rewarding things. And I think you approach it that way as an exploration. I also have this to say. I have a friend who's from the old days who's really uber. And I said, no, no, I can't do that. He was telling me something to do with my Sork. I'm like, you could play your Sork that way, but I can't. And I told him why. And I said, you have all the stuff, you know the stuff. And he said, no, you have all the gear and everything I know for this. I'm like, no, I don't. And he sat down and he walked me through why it was true. And he showed me. And I also think it's cool to be ambitious, even if it's gonna flop, because maybe it won't. My circ actually does pretty well leveling, and I would not have guessed that, and I got that advice from people in the game, and it would have taken me a year to figure out on my own that I could do this. So, I also say, well, get advice from other people. Don't doubt your don't don't do anything other than make your own opinions and own your opinions, because on those occasions, maybe they're too rare in my case when you're right. It's just wonderful because then you built this, you did this, you have confidence in it. These things are little works of art that we share with each other in a team setting. I think that's what they are. And, some of them are like, nah, I wouldn't put that on my wall. But that's what they are. And, I really respect that. And I'm not just a kid in the candy store with a new content. I'm looking at some of these 30s and walking around and what they can do. And I'm like, this is pretty. This is really pretty to watch. And so, I know everyone else wants 34. I kind of want another year of 30. Okay. I won't get it. But I really am enjoying this moment, and I would like to stay in the moment, and I have a lot of work to do in this moment. But, yeah, do laugh at your mistakes, you'll make a lot of them. My guildies are helping me keep track of them if I forget them. But I've done
You're
some
good for
pretty
that,
hilarious
guildies.
things. Yeah, that's good. Good of them, right?
I would say the advice that I would want to give is, I think, similar in, you know to some of the stuff you're saying, is find and build a good community of players to be with. I mean, that's not to say that you don't pug and stuff, but build a support system of friends and a guild and stuff like that. Because more players always amplifies what you can do. Uh, and I will say also would say, like, there's a lot of ways that you can kind of work towards, quote, catching up and getting all those lives and stuff. And some people can do that and some people won't. But, give yourself permission to not need to be on the same level as those really amazing elite players that you find. That doesn't mean you can't run with them. It doesn't mean that they won't help you. It doesn't mean that they won't play with you. Um, it just means that they've had more time, or were maybe more efficient, uh, than you were. That's
Yeah,
all.
yeah, I agree with that, and a lot of those Uber players are really nice, and so if you hear people say, "Oh, but they're stuck up because they have other gear," no, a lot of them aren't. Some of them are busy, they've got other things to do, and they don't have time to help new people, but a lot of them do. So you have to trust people to wanna improve the community overall, because I really think people do. And it is a you do have to, uh, trust other people. You know, the first time I went on an R10 raid, other than dying a bunch, near the end, I apologized, and they said, "Ah, you did fine." I said, I really don't think I did." And the answer I got back, it's a very candid Kyber kind of answer. The guy said cheerfully, by the way, I run with him all the time now on R10, but a while back, I was not doing so well. One of them said to me, "Oh, we've carried worse than you through this." And, and and he said it with a voice that had spoken too much, a nice deep voice. And when he said that, I realized he really was thinking of this as community service. And you plant these little seeds and some of them grow. And when they have an extra spot, they're going to do this. It means they have to stop and res me every now and then, but they're going to do it. And good for them. And from where I sit, like in the mid game, for new players, I do the same. And together we have a healthy community of people at different stages. But yeah, I actually think sometimes people unfairly think of some Uber players that are just busy as stuck up, and they're not. They're just busy. They've got to do 3 TRs by tomorrow, so their schedule's tight, but some of them are lounging around at 30 or 20 and happy to help. So you have to trust in the community. I think Kyber is, actually I don't it's a learning culture, that's what I want from it more than being nice, but it's actually doing okay on the pug and the outreach and being nice, so good for it. Um you definitely will get feedback, and some of these young people that have been in other games seem more impervious to it. They don't go under their pillow and cry. You know, they've been in other gaming environments, right? But for me, feedback's always been information, and I don't have to listen to if it's bad, and I don't care if it was said angrily or nicely. One of my best friends in the game, who still plays the game, thank goodness. I knew from way back when I was a baby cleric, and he was so disgusted at my playing as a cleric, he just yelled at me. And the next day, I approached him and I said, I was thinking about what you said, and I think a lot of it's right. Can you help me? I said, I was looking for you because I thought I hurt my feelings. And I was like, screw my feelings. Can you help me? And that's the way to learn, right? Sometimes. So you have to be a little tough, but I think they're mostly nice, including the people at different ranges. So I don't like and I discourage the talk in Kyber about, us versus them, upstairs, downstairs. And in fact, I hope a lot of the mid-range guilds help to be feeder guilds to the upper guilds, and the upper guilds see that, and we have good relationships, and the whole Kyber gets stronger. That's my so you
And
can
other
help
servers.
make that happen from wherever you stand on every server. It's not specific to Kyber, it's just where I've made my bed, but that's true everywhere. I have a friend who went to another server and has a tune there, and she gushed to me, Voodoo's price is really nice. He really will sit down and explain things to you, just like on the video. He'll help you. And it was nice, but I don't know why she was surprised. Someone at that level enjoys sharing, and it's why he does the videos. So he actually is a good guy, your guest in real life with complete strangers. So good for him.
I think we'll close out the show here. Anything else you wanna say? You wanna plug before we head out?
Yeah, have fun. And go at a pace where you don't burn out so that you stay here a good long while and we all get to know each other for a while. Okay? So go have fun.
Kind of the main goal, right? Everybody have fun.
Yeah, it's a game.
Well, thanks, Perisher, for joining me today, and thanks to all the contributors for DDOCast. Hope you learned something today, or if you're a new or returning player, this was helpful for you. Uh, Thanks also to Standing Some Games and to Wizard of the Coast for making DDO happen, and to Cyber Ears for hosting the podcast. If you'd like to support the show, you can visit our website, DDOcast.com, or you can support us on Patreon. If you have a DDO-themed webpage or you Twitch DDO and you'd like to be featured on our website, you can email us at ddocast@gmail.com. You can also hit us up at ddocast.com for our show notes, MP3s, our calendar, previous shows, and other fun stuff. If you'd like to be part of the show, if you have a comment on this episode, a question you'd like to hear us answer, a topic you'd like to hear us discuss, or you just want to say hi, leave a comment or email us at ddocast@gmail.com. You can also find us on social media and follow us for latest cast updates. I'm at DDOCast on Twitter. Best place to follow me for that kind of stuff. So until next time, may all your attack rolls be crits, all your chest level appropriate, have fun, and don't forget to gather from us.